Well, Dal, after a disappointing weekend, what's the focus of training this week and Brad's key messages to the group?
Nothing's really changed from pre-season, to be completely honest with you. In regards to the message, we didn't feel we gave ourselves a really good account of the pre-season that we've done, and the way we went about on the weekend from a player's point of view was really disappointing. Obviously let the club down in that regard, and a lot of people expecting a lot of things from us, mostly our supporters, and I don't think we gave a good account of ourselves. So we're looking forward to getting back out there. You know, talk's cheap, and I'm here talking to you today, but we'd really love to be out there and getting back into it.
Have you been able to by surprise? What are the key areas? It caught everyone by surprise. What are the key areas you'll have to focus on improving on this week?
Well, when you lose by 12 goals, there's a lot of things you need to work on, and we had a really thorough meeting yesterday, which was it's actually positive. It's almost like a confession. You go there, you work through it. It was really positive when we walk out. Everything from the way we used the ball to the way that we defend it when we didn't have it. Stoppages were really disappointing. So when you lose by that amount of a margin, particularly first up, there's enough time to work through it. And I'm hoping that we'll put in the work this week and be ready to go.
Who was the most honest yesterday?
Who was the most honest? The coach was pretty good yesterday. I think this playing group is actually a really honest group. The way that they go about their football, the way we train throughout the pre-season, I'd say we are an honest group. In regards to the feedback, we've come a long way since I've been here, so 12 odd months, and just the peer-to-peer feedback is a lot better. So there's a lot of guys that know that their performance was disappointing and they're hurting this week, but that's the good thing about football. You get a good chance to resurrect it come Sunday afternoon.
From the outside, Nick, it looks like it's a long pre-season. Every player would be desperate to play, but it didn't seem like your team's attitude was right from the get-go on the weekend. How do you sort of explain that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to explain, and there's no excuses. You won't get one excuse from one of the boys in that regard. It is a long pre-season, there's no doubt about that, and we are really excited for the season. We feel like there's some good things that we can achieve. But as I said, what we did on the weekend, when we didn't have it, when we did have it, just wasn't the way that we want to play our footy, and I feel you'll see a different team come Sunday.
Do you just wipe it? Like, do you just go, no?
I don't think you can. I think if you just pretend like you can brush over and everything will be all right, then you're probably missing the learnings out of it. We definitely didn't do that yesterday. We learnt from our mistakes. But there was a couple of little positives within the game. Obviously, that third quarter was a good start to the third quarter, but to be able to do it for 20 minutes isn't enough, and we know that at this level.
So what do you do to make sure you're on for round two, mentally prepared?
I'm a big believer in preparation, so I felt yesterday had to happen in regard to the meeting, the way it went, but then it's just actions. It's about getting out there, training, getting confidence in the way that we go about our training, and then more than that, mentally turning up on Sunday, ready to go.
Was Brad angry, or was he more sort of constructive in his feedback and criticism?
A little bit of both. The thing I love about Brad Scott is he's a really good teacher. I mean, it's one thing to come in and spray the boys, get really aggressive, but at the end of the day, it doesn't always result to anything, but he's a really good educator. And the way that we went through some of the footage yesterday, it was more about learning. And within that, it was obviously guys that need to learn individually, but as a team and as a club that we need to get better. And I thought Brad was great at that yesterday.
Are you expecting a bit of a bring your mouth guards out on track type session tomorrow?
Oh, don't know about that. Our trainings are pretty solid, and I don't know if you guys have been here through the pre-season, but we wear our mouth guards every day. I know it's a little bit of a cliche about bringing your mouth guards, but we literally do. But I don't think we'll go about our training any different. There's a lot of things we need to work on, which I've sort of tried to touch on, but more than that, we've trained really solidly for 4 to 5 months, so if we don't know it by now, it might be a little bit too late. And as I said, talk's cheap, we're ready to go come the weekend.
Is there a case there maybe of a little bit of some of the boys believing a bit of the hype that was around pre-season?
I'd like to say no. I wouldn't have thought so, and I don't think the way that we played on the weekend that we were playing or acting or prepared like we were too good for anybody. One thing I know about this competition, and it's getting harder every year, and I think this year's going to be even more even. And I got asked the question last week on the footy show. I think we're within probably 10 teams that think they're a realistic chance of playing finals, and if not, be there at the end of September. So we know every week's going to be hard, and to say that we underestimated Adelaide, I think is completely wrong. We definitely didn't do that. We just had a really bad showing.
I was going to touch on that. I know you don't want to make excuses, but given the evenness of the competition, can we see a situation this year where the home ground advantage, particularly for those interstate trips, is perhaps bigger than it has been in recent years?
Oh, I'd say yes and no. I think it also can work the other way, that if any team's off by just a little bit, and I think we're talking 5-10%, it doesn't have to be a lot. And, you know, within stoppages, for example, you can be off by half a metre and you lose the stoppage and it's a goal against. That's how close I think it is at the moment, and that'll play throughout the whole year. I think there's teams that'll go in favourites and they'll lose, but I don't think it's because they're necessarily any worse. I just think it's just the day, it's just the way it unfolded. I think it's that even this year.
As leaders, what didn't you do enough of to stop that run on? I mean, good sides don't concede 10 goals without reply.
Yeah, that's something that we've spoken about as a leadership group already this week, that we were really disappointed that when things weren't working well for us, that we weren't able to change the course of the game. I think it's as simple as getting your hands on the ball. And I know it sounds like it's easy, but when they were going really well, and they've got some guys that are unbelievable, particularly in that second quarter, but it's just about controlling the game in certain periods. And if you have to slow it down for 5 to 10 minutes, then we do that. But you all saw what happened on the weekend. We just weren't there when we were needed, and the game was over pretty much at half time.
How important Sunday, given your last 2 serious matches, the prelim and round 1, have been pretty awful?
Yeah, thanks for reminding us about the prelim. Yeah, they have been disappointing. I think the game against Sydney, I know it's last year, I just felt they were a much better team than us. Not just on that night, but as a club. And they deserved everything that they got that night. I thought they were fantastic with their pressure, and they really showed us what finals football was about. But we haven't looked back. I mean, I know it is 2 games technically in a row, but we haven't spoken about anything like that. All I know is that we're really disappointed on Sunday after waiting 4 months to really get into it, and we're looking forward to this weekend.
A couple of former players, not just North Melbourne players, believe there's still a bit of a mental fragility with this North Melbourne side. Is that fair, do you think?
I don't even know what fragility means, to be honest with you, mate. Yeah. That's people's opinion. And to be honest, from the outside, it's probably what it looked like on Sunday. As I touched on before, I think where we've come in 12 months, and obviously I was an outsider 12 months ago, I think the group's really improved. I think talking about last year, we played a couple of finals that were up against it, and I thought we stood up when we had to on 2 of the biggest stages come September, and we were really good. But once again, I can see why people are seeing us on the weekend. Supporters particularly, North Melbourne supporters that look at us and just, probably asking questions, and we're really disappointed in that. We feel it this week. Our meeting definitely reflected it yesterday, and that's why I've said we sort of just really want to get some things right on the training track this week, and then hopefully have a good performance this weekend.
I'd imagine Brad would be tempted to ring in the changes this week. Much talk of that?
Only early for that, and that's definitely not my area within the footy club. But the good thing about the changes are, and if they do happen, that there's guys waiting to go, and there was some really good selection dilemmas last week, and there's some guys that missed out that were really stiff. And I think if they do get their opportunity, we know that they've had a really good pre-season and know our game plan and how we want to go about it, they can fit straight in. So we'll see what happens there.
Who are those guys?
Well, no, Mason Wood played really well. Robbie Tarrant, Majak played well on the weekend. There was about 4 or 5 guys that played VFL, and then there was a couple of emergencies. So Robbie Nahas got promoted. He's had a really good NAB Cup or VFL pre-season. So there's options, and that's the good thing. So it's I'm not saying that they're necessarily going to come in. That's got nothing to do with me. But if they do, that we've got confidence that they can play their role.
Nick, when you say the feedback you're giving each other within those meetings like yesterday is improved, in what ways? Is it just picking out the right things to say or having the courage to...
I think it's a bit of both. It's also understanding the game. I think one little myth about this club, and particularly when I came in here, is the group's actually really young, particularly the midfield group. And it's also about understanding situations. And on the weekend was really disappointing. It's not saying that we don't give feedback in the game or within training, but I just feel the group's becoming more aware of situations, and obviously the previous year they lost a lot of games by small margins, and I feel that they learned a lot from that. And the feedback is, just understanding the game, knowing how to communicate with people, and delivering it in the right manner. And I feel we've come a long way.
Nick, there's talk that they might introduce hair tests during the season. You've been a bit critical of the 3 strikes policy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just to clarify that, I wasn't overly critical of the current system. I just felt it was a really good opportunity to reassess it and have a look at it. Obviously, there's 2 sides of it. There's the illicit and then there's performance enhancing. I see them completely separate. Yeah. But in regards to the social drugs, it's obviously something's happening within the game. I'm not fully across it and don't probably understand it enough to make big comments, but I just feel with recent things that have happened, there's a really good opportunity for us to have a look at it. And I refer to the players being a big part of it, obviously the organisations that monitor it, the AFL's obviously a huge part of it. And I just feel we can come up with a really good program or a really good system that everybody's happy with, that everyone's really clear on, and we can move forward. That's all. And I'm not saying the system hasn't been great, because I actually believe in helping blokes and the rehab sort of side of it. And I also believe in not necessarily exposing blokes. So I just feel there's an opportunity just to relook at it, and we'll all get a positive outcome.
Is there a generational gap, you think, Dal, insofar as perhaps the older guys aren't doing it and the younger guys perhaps are more susceptible to doing it?
To be honest, I'd have no idea. And I'm probably in that older bracket, and I heard some feedback after Brendan got out, and I made some comments that maybe were a bit old for it, and we are. It wasn't what I grew up with. Obviously, alcohol and socialising was the way you'd go about it, but I don't know, maybe I am out of it. I don't see it as a huge issue because it's not my lifestyle, but there's people in positions that can make better calls than I can. They can at least contribute to the conversation.
How would you feel about something like hair tests during the season?
Me personally, it wouldn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me. I still believe in privacy though, and I still believe in helping guys. So if that's the model and that's the system that we want to go by, then I'm happy to support it.
Thanks. Well done.
Beauty.